The universe has a way of teaching lessons to those who refuse to learn. Some species understand this early, bending their pride to the wisdom of caution. Others learn it too late, when the darkness between stars swallows their arrogance whole. And then there are those rare few who become the lesson itself, a warning written in fire and silence for all who come after. The observation vessel drifted through the void like a silver needle threading through black fabric. Inside its crystalline command sphere, Senior Observer Thelian pressed his six-fingered hand against the control panel, his iridescent scales shifting from blue to deep purple as anxiety rippled through his body. His species, the Korathi, had spent 12,000 years watching younger civilizations rise and fall. They prided themselves on their patience, their careful documentation of every species that reached for the stars. But what he was seeing now defied every pattern they had recorded. On the holographic display before him, a small blue world spun peacefully in the darkness. Earth, the humans called it. Thelian had been observing this planet for 73 standard cycles now, watching the strange bipedal creatures below as they fumbled their way toward space travel. When he had first arrived, they were launching primitive chemical rockets, celebrating each small victory as if they had conquered the cosmos itself. It had been almost charming in its innocence. But something had changed. Thelian's secondary eyes focused on the data streams flowing across his peripheral screens. Construction signatures. Energy readings. Resource extraction on a scale that should have been impossible for a species barely 2 centuries into their space age. The asteroid belt in this system, which had been untouched when he arrived, now glittered with human mining stations. Dozens of them, pulling metals and minerals from the rocks at an ever-accelerating rate. "This is not natural," he whispered to himself, his voice a musical sequence of tones that his translation device rendered into standard galactic speech. "They should not be this advanced. Not yet." He pulled up the comparison data, overlaying humanity's progress against the historical records of other species. The Korathi themselves had taken 6,000 years to establish their first extraplanetary mining operation. The proud Scythians, known throughout the galaxy for their engineering prowess, had needed 3,000. Even the aggressive Brassian horde, famous for their rapid expansion, had taken 7 centuries. Humanity had done it in 47 years. Thelian's tertiary heart began to beat faster, a biological response his species had evolved to signal danger. He expanded the timeline, watching the acceleration. First lunar colonies, primitive but functional. Then the red planet they called Mars, where domed cities now housed tens of thousands. Then the moons of the gas giants, where fusion reactors powered by atmospheric harvesting operations lit up the darkness like artificial stars. And the ships. By the ancestors, the ships. When Thelian had begun his observation, human spacecraft had been crude metal cans that could barely reach their own moon. Now his sensors were tracking vessels that moved between planets with casual ease, sleek designs that showed an understanding of physics that should have taken centuries more to develop. "Something is wrong here," Thelian said, this time speaking directly into his communication array. His message would take 3 standard days to reach the nearest Korathi outpost, but he could wait no longer. "I am submitting a priority concern report regarding species designation Terra, Human, 001. Recommend immediate escalation to the Galactic Council. This species is developing at a rate that exceeds all historical precedents. I believe we may be witnessing an anomaly." He paused, his scales flickering with uncertainty. The word anomaly was not used lightly in Korathi science. It meant something that broke the natural order, something that demanded action. But even as he composed his report, Thelian watched the humans continue their impossible work. On his screens, a new construction project had begun in orbit around the 4th planet. The energy signature suggested something massive, something that would dwarf even their largest current vessels. "How are you doing this?" he wondered, zooming his sensors in on one of the human shipyards. "What have you found that lets you move so fast?" The answer came 3 days later, not from the Korathi Central Command, but from the humans themselves. Thelian was cataloging mineral extraction rates when his proximity alarms screamed to life. His observation vessel was supposedly invisible, wrapped in stealth fields that bent light and energy around its hull. No young species had ever detected a Korathi observer. It was impossible. The human vessel that appeared on his sensors suggested otherwise. It was smaller than his ship, sleek and angular, with lines that spoke of speed and purpose. It had arrived without warning, dropping out of faster-than-light travel with a precision that made Thelian's scales pale to white. And it was heading directly toward him. His communication array crackled to life, and a voice spoke in clear galactic standard, the pronunciation nearly perfect. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Bridget Howe of the Terran Exploration Corps ship Wanderer. We know you're out there. We've known for about 8 months now. We'd like to talk." Thelian sat frozen in his command sphere, every one of his hearts hammering in different rhythms. This should not be possible. They should not be able to see him. They should not know galactic standard. They should still be centuries away from this level of technology. "We mean no harm," the human voice continued, with a tone that somehow managed to sound both friendly and absolutely serious. "But we'd appreciate it if you drop the stealth field and have a conversation. We have questions. I imagine you do too." Slowly, his manipulator appendages trembling, Thelian reached for his communications controls. His training told him to flee, to maintain observation protocols, to never make direct contact with a species under study. But his training had also told him that young species could not detect Korathi stealth technology. Clearly, something had gone very wrong with humanity's development. And now, whether he liked it or not, Thelian was about to discover exactly what. Captain Bridget Howe sat in the command chair of the Wanderer, her fingers drumming a steady rhythm against the armrest as she watched the shimmer in space ahead slowly resolve into solid form. The alien vessel materialized like a ghost becoming flesh, its surface a mosaic of crystalline panels that caught and scattered the distant starlight into rainbow fragments. She had seen the analysis reports, studied the recordings their sensors had made over the past months, but seeing it with her own eyes still sent a thrill down her spine. First contact. Real, actual first contact. Her communications officer, Lieutenant James Park, looked up from his station with barely contained excitement. "They are responding, Captain. Audio only. Translating now." The voice that emerged from the speakers was unlike anything Bridget had heard before, a cascade of musical tones that the translation software rendered into slightly stilted English. "I am Senior Observer Thelian of the Korathi Confederation. You should not be able to see my vessel. You should not be speaking galactic standard. You should not be here at all." Bridget smiled, though she kept her voice professional. "Yet here we are. Thank you for revealing yourself, Observer Thelian. I understand this breaks your protocols. It breaks several of ours too. But I think we're past the point of pretending we don't know about each other." There was a long pause. She could imagine the alien on the other end struggling with the situation, probably consulting some ancient rulebook about observation procedures. The Korathi were known throughout the fragments of galactic knowledge humanity had pieced together as meticulous record keepers, patient watchers who never interfered. Finding out they had been watched for decades should have bothered her, but honestly, Bridget understood the impulse. If she had found a new intelligent species, she would have watched them too. "How long have you known?" Thelian asked finally. "About you specifically?" 8 months. "About galactic civilization in general?" 83 years. Another pause, longer this time. "That is impossible. We detected no breaches in your star system. No foreign vessels. No contact events." Bridget leaned forward in her chair. "That is because the contact did not happen here, Observer. It happened on Kepler 442b. One of our early colony expeditions found something there. Something left behind." "The wreckage," Thelian said, and his voice carried a note of what the translator rendered as dread. "You found battle wreckage." We found a library, Bridget corrected gently. A dead ship, yes, but its data cores were intact. Whoever they were, they left behind everything. Star charts. Technical specifications. Cultural databases. Even language instruction protocols. We learned galactic standard from their teaching programs. We learned about the Council, the great civilizations, the rules that govern space. We learned that we were supposed to develop slowly, naturally, over thousands of years. And you chose to accelerate instead. We chose to survive, Bridget said, and now her voice carried an edge. The data we recovered included historical records, observer Thelian. We know what happens to species that develop too slowly. We know about the cullings, the interventions, the civilizations that get absorbed or eliminated when they become inconvenient. We saw the pattern. Species that reach the stars weak get swept aside. Only the strong get to keep their independence. That is a cynical interpretation, Thelian replied. Is it? Bridget pulled up a display on her command screen, though the alien could not see it. We found records of 17 species in the past 5,000 years that reached space flight capability and then vanished from galactic records within a century. 17. What happened to them, observer? Did they all just coincidentally destroy themselves? The silence stretched so long that Bridget wondered if the connection had been severed. When Thelian finally spoke again, his voice was quieter. Some did destroy themselves. Others were integrated into larger civilizations. A few were quarantined for biological or technological hazards. The galaxy is not a peaceful place, Captain Howe. The strong survive. The weak are protected when possible, but protection comes at a cost. Freedom, Bridget said. The cost is freedom. The choice to determine your own path. You are still young, Thelian said. You do not understand the dangers that exist in the darkness between stars. There are things older and hungrier than you can imagine. The Council exists to maintain order, to prevent chaos. Maybe so. But we decided we would rather face those dangers as equals than as children begging for protection. The data we found gave us a head start. We reverse-engineered the faster-than-light drives. We studied the materials science, the energy systems, the computational frameworks. We stood on the shoulders of a dead civilization and we climbed. You climbed too fast, Thelian said, and now his voice carried something that might have been fear. The Council will notice. They likely already have. My reports reach back to Karathi space, but there are other observers, other species watching your expansion. When they see how quickly you have grown, they will respond. Let them respond, Bridget said. We are not hiding anymore. We have 74 colonies across 19 systems now. We have a fleet of 642 vessels capable of independent interstellar travel. We have 47 billion people across our sphere of influence, and every one of them knows we are not alone in the universe. We are done being watched in silence, observer Thelian. We are ready to join the galactic community as partners, not as subjects. The Council does not negotiate with species under observation, Thelian said. There are procedures, protocols. You should have developed naturally, made first contact through proper channels, submitted to evaluation and integration processes. What you have done is bypass everything. You have broken the fundamental rules of galactic civilization. Rules written by civilizations that were already established, Bridget countered. Easy to make rules that benefit you when you are already on top. Tell me, observer Thelian, do you think those rules are fair? Do you think a species should have to spend thousands of years crawling toward the stars while others watch and judge? Would the Karathi have accepted those terms if they had known about galactic civilization when they were where we are now? Another long silence. When Thelian spoke again, something had shifted in his tone. I do not make policy, Captain Howe. I observe and report. But I will tell you this as a courtesy, one sentient being to another. What you have done will terrify the Council. They have maintained order for 10,000 years by ensuring that all species develop along predictable paths. You have made yourselves unpredictable. Dangerous. They will see you as a threat. Then they will have to decide, Bridget said quietly, whether they want us as friends or enemies. Because we are not going back. We are not going to slow down. We are not going to apologize for wanting to control our own destiny. We found a gift in the darkness, Observer Thelian. A chance to skip ahead in the game. And we took it. That gift may become a curse, Thelian said. The wreckage you found, the ship with its intact data cores, did you ever wonder why it was there? Why a vessel full of such valuable information was left abandoned in an uncharted system? Bridget felt a chill run down her spine. We assumed it was a casualty of whatever war created the wreckage field we found it in. Wars do not leave intact data cores, Captain. Wars destroy information. Someone left that ship there deliberately. Someone wanted it to be found. And now you have followed the path they laid out for you. I hope for all our sakes that path does not lead where I fear it might. Before Bridget could respond, her tactical officer called out from across the bridge. Captain, we have multiple signatures emerging from faster than light. Big ones. Military configurations. How many? Bridget asked, her hand moving to the alert controls. 37 vessels so far. More arriving every second. On the main screen, space began to tear open with brilliant flashes of light, and through each tear came ships. The Wanderer's bridge fell into disciplined silence as the ships continued to arrive. Bridget watched the tactical display populate with hostile signatures, each one larger than anything humanity had built. These were not exploration vessels or observation craft. These were warships, built by civilizations that had perfected the art of destruction over millennia. The lead vessel dwarfed even Earth's largest colony ships, a massive construct of dark metal and glowing energy conduits that seemed to drink in the light around it. Observer Thelian's voice cut through the tension, urgent and afraid. Captain Howe, you need to leave. Now. That is a Dominion enforcement fleet. They do not negotiate. They do not warn. If they have come for you, then the Council has already passed judgment. Bridget kept her eyes on the screen, her mind racing through options. Can we outrun them? Her navigation officer, Elena Rodriguez, shook her head without looking up from her calculations. Not with that many ships. They will have blockade positions calculated. If we run, they will intercept us before we can build enough distance to jump. Then we talk, Bridget said firmly. Open a channel to the lead vessel. Captain, that is unwise, Thelian interjected. The Dominion does not respond well to defiance. And humanity does not respond well to threats, Bridget replied. She straightened in her chair, smoothing down her uniform. This was the moment that would define everything. Not just for her, not just for her crew, but for every human being scattered across 19 star systems. If she showed weakness now, humanity would spend the next 1,000 years under someone else's thumb. If she showed strength, they might not survive the next hour. The main screen flickered, and a face appeared. The being was tall and thin, with copper-colored skin that seemed to shimmer with an internal light. His eyes glowed a soft blue, ancient and cold, the eyes of something that had seen civilizations rise and fall like waves upon a shore. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. I am High Arbiter Velketh of the Galactic Dominion. You are Captain Bridget Howe of the species designated as human. Your presence here, your ships, your colonies, all of it represents a violation of galactic law. You have developed beyond your permitted parameters. You have refused observation protocols. You have expanded without authorization. These are crimes against the established order. Bridget met those glowing eyes without flinching. With respect, High Arbiter, we reject the premise of your charges. We did not agree to your laws. We were never asked if we wanted to be observed. We discovered evidence of galactic civilization through our own efforts, and we chose to join it on our own terms. That is not a crime. That is sovereignty. Velkatha's expression did not change, but something flickered in those ancient eyes. Sovereignty is earned through time and demonstration of responsibility. You have existed as a spacefaring species for barely 2 centuries. You are children playing with tools you do not understand. The gift you found, the wreckage that gave you such rapid advancement, do you even comprehend what it was? A library, Bridget said. Knowledge left behind by a civilization that fell. It was bait, Velkath said, and now his voice carried something that might have been pity. The species you found, the ones who left that convenient wreckage, they were called the architects. They were brilliant and arrogant, much like yourselves. They believed they could outsmart the natural order of things. They accelerated their development through recovered technology, just as you have done. And they grew powerful so quickly that they threatened the stability of the entire galactic sector. Bridget felt ice forming in her stomach, but she kept her voice steady. What happened to them? They were eliminated, Velkath said simply. Not by us, not by any single civilization. They made enemies too quickly, expanded too aggressively, and refused to accept guidance from older, wiser species. In the end, a coalition of 17 civilizations united to stop them. The war lasted 3 years. When it ended, the architects were extinct, and their worlds were graveyards. We scattered the wreckage of their ships across the galaxy as a warning to others who might be tempted to rise too quickly. And yet you left the data cores intact, Bridget said quietly. You left the knowledge accessible. Why? Because we needed to know, Velkath replied, and for the first time, his expression shifted, something almost human crossing his alien features. We needed to understand what kind of species would find that knowledge and choose to use it. Most species, when they discover they are being watched, when they learn about galactic civilization, they reach out. They ask for guidance. They accept that there are things they do not yet understand. But some species, a rare and dangerous few, they see the gift and take it without question. They prioritize power over wisdom. Growth over understanding. Those species always become threats. Always. The bridge was silent. Every eye was on Bridget, waiting to see how she would respond. She thought about Earth, about the billions of people living their lives under the assumption that humanity was finally stepping onto the galactic stage as equals. She thought about the colonies, the children being born on distant worlds who would grow up among the stars. She thought about the choice she had supported, the decision to accelerate, to chase power instead of waiting patiently for acceptance. Had they made a mistake? Had humanity's ambition doomed them before they truly began? No, she realized. The mistake was not in taking the gift. The mistake was in believing the game was fair to begin with. High Arbiter, Bridget said slowly, her words careful and deliberate, you have just told me that you deliberately left technology where young species would find it, knowing it would accelerate their development. You did this as a test, to separate species into categories based on how they responded. And now you tell me that species who take the gift, who use it to grow strong, are eliminated as threats. Do you understand what that means? It means the galaxy has order, Velkath said. It means the galaxy has a trap, Bridget countered, her voice rising with controlled anger. You do not want young species to join you as equals. You want them to stay weak and dependent, or you want an excuse to eliminate them before they become competition. This is not about wisdom or responsibility. This is about maintaining power. About keeping the old civilizations on top and everyone else beneath them. The Council has maintained peace for 10,000 years, Velkath said, his voice hardening. We have prevented countless wars, protected vulnerable species, and guided the development of galactic civilization toward stability and prosperity. What you call a trap is simply reality. The strong survive. The weak are protected. And the foolish, those who reach for power they are not ready to wield, they are stopped before they can harm others. And who decides who is ready? Bridget demanded. Who gave you the right to judge entire species? To test them with bait and punish them for taking it? We took that right, Velkath said simply. Because we were strong enough to do so. Just as the architects tried to do before us. Just as you are trying to do now. The difference is that we succeeded, and they failed, and you will fail as well. Bridget stood from her command chair, her heart pounding but her voice steady. Then you have already decided. You came here not to talk but to pass sentence. This entire conversation is just theater. Velkath nodded slowly. I came here to offer you a choice, Captain Howe. The same choice we offered the architects. Submit to council authority. Place your colonies under Dominion protection. Limit your expansion and accept guidance from older species. Do this, and humanity will survive. Refuse, and your species will be added to the list of cautionary tales we tell to keep others in line. And if we submit, what happens to our freedom? Our right to determine our own path? You will have the same rights as all protected species, Velkath said. Limited autonomy within council guidelines. It is a small price to pay for survival. Bridget looked around her bridge, at the men and women who had volunteered to explore the unknown, who had left Earth behind to see what wonders existed among the stars. They had not come all this way to kneel. She looked back at Velkath, and she smiled. It was not a happy smile, not a kind one. It was the smile of someone who had just realized they had nothing left to lose. Then we refuse, she said quietly. And whatever happens next, the galaxy will remember that humanity chose freedom over slavery. We chose to stand even when we could have kneeled. And maybe the next young species that finds your bait will hear our story and make a different choice than you expect. Velkath's expression did not change, but she saw something in his eyes. Respect perhaps, or maybe just sadness for what was about to happen. So be it, he said. May your courage be remembered, even as your species is forgotten. The communication cut off. Alarms began to scream across the Wanderer's Bridge as the Dominion fleet powered weapons that could crack planets. And in that moment, as certain death approached, Bridget Howe felt something she had not expected. Peace. They had made their choice. Humanity had made its choice. And whatever the cost, they would pay it standing tall.